So what if I told you that well over half the English grammar you might have agonized over in school is like basically a ghost town in the real world?
Yeah, it's honestly wild to think about.
Right. I mean, think about that giant, intimidating grid of 12 English verb tenses that's hanging on the wall of
Right.
every language classroom ever.
Oh, yeah. The one with those boxes for the future perfect, continuous, and, past perfect.
Exactly. And you stare at those boxes and you assume, well, I guess I need all of these to be a fluent, functioning human being, right?
Which is so overwhelming for anyone trying to learn.
It really is. But what if you only needed a tiny fraction of that grid to do almost everything?
It completely reframes the entire journey of learning a language.
Honestly, totally. And that is the core mission of our deep dive today. We're offering you a massive shortcut based on this really fascinating piece of research about the 5 essential tenses of spoken English.
Yeah, and the coolest part is this isn't just based on, some grammarian's opinion.
Yeah.
It relies on corpus linguistics.
Right, which is basically the scientific study of language in the wild, right? Like how people actually talk.
Exactly. Researchers aren't just sitting in an office guessing what people say. They build these massive databases, sometimes billions of words, scraped from real unscripted human interactions.
Wow, billions of words. So like phone calls, dinner table arguments, stuff like that.
Yeah, casual coffee shop chats, boardroom meetings, all of it. And when you feed all that raw, messy data into an algorithm, a very clear pattern emerges.
And what's the pattern? Because the numbers here are kind of staggering.
Native speakers aggressively optimize their language. They completely bypass the complex multi-word tenses whenever possible.
Right. The research reveals that out of those 12 traditional tenses, just 5 of them make up 90% of everyday spoken English.
Yeah.
90%.
It's incredible. English has just evolved to prioritize speed and clarity in real-time communication.
So, those other 7 tenses, the ones that make up the remaining 10%, I mean, they aren't extinct, right?
No, they're not extinct.
Yeah.
They just serve a highly specialized function. I like to think of them as the surgical tools of language.
Okay. Surgical tools. Like for what?
Like for legal contracts, academic papers, or, highly intricate written storytelling.
Right, right. But if you are just trying to navigate a Tuesday, like describing your routine, recounting an embarrassing story to a friend, making weekend plans, you only reach for those 5 specific tools.
Exactly. Because, we don't have time to construct a future perfect continuous sentence when someone just asks what we're doing tomorrow.
Yeah, nobody talks like that. So let's unpack this. Let's follow the natural arc of human psychology here.
Okay, I love that approach.
Because before we can tell stories about our past or make plans for our future, we kind of have to anchor ourselves in the present, right? We have to define who we are.
Yes. Which brings us to the absolute foundation. The most frequently used tense in the English language, the simple present.
The baseline of reality.
Exactly. Things like, I work at a hospital, or she drinks coffee, water boils at 100 degrees.
Right. So we're just using the subject and the base verb to establish permanent facts and routines, universal truths.
Yeah. The way I conceptualize the simple present is it functions kind of like the default settings on a smartphone.
Oh, I like that analogy. Default settings.
Yeah, because it doesn't tell me what app is currently open or what notification just popped up. It tells me the underlying operating system, the permanent architecture of your life.
Right. And human beings, we kind of crave that stability, Like from a cognitive perspective, we need a linguistic category for things that don't change from minute to minute.
Totally. It reduces the cognitive load of communication.
Right. If you say, I live in Tokyo, you're signaling a durable state of affairs.
Yeah.
The listener can just file that information away as a permanent truth.
But here's a really fascinating quirk that the research points out about this durable state.
Oh, the train schedule thing.
Yes. The simple present is so grounded in certainty that we actually use it to talk about the future, provided that the future event is completely inflexible.
Right. Like if an event is locked into a firm timetable, the timeline basically bends to accommodate the certainty.
It's a brilliant mechanical feature of English. We say, the train leaves at 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Wait, yeah. We don't say the train will leave, even though it's tomorrow.
Exactly. We don't need a future tense there because the schedule is treated as a permanent fact of the universe. The certainty overrides the timeline.
That is so cool. But obviously, human life is not just, a series of permanent facts and train schedules.
Thankfully, no.
We're constantly in motion. We're doing things that are explicitly temporary. And that requires a shift from our default setting to, like, a status update.
Right. And this is the second workhorse tense, the present continuous.
The status update. So the structure shifts here, right?
Yeah. We add the verb to be, so am, is, or are, and attach an ain to our main verb, like I am working on a new project.
Or they are traveling this week.
Exactly. And the psychological function here is to highlight the temporary boundaries of an action.
Okay, so it signals that an event has started, is currently in progress, and critically, it's going to eventually end.
Yes, that temporary nature is key.
Okay, but I have to challenge a fundamental premise here because this always confused me.
So go for it.
If the present continuous is designed for things happening right now, in the moment, why is it considered grammatically incorrect to say, I am liking this music, or I am understanding this concept?
The stative verbs.
Right, because I'm actively doing both of those things at this exact second, yet traditional grammar says that's wrong.
It's a superb question. And it really gets to the heart of how English categorizes human experience.
How so?
Well, English basically divides verbs into two camps,
Hmm.
actions and states. Action verbs are things you do, running, eating, building.
Okay, that makes sense.
But state verbs, or stative verbs, represent internal conditions, knowing, believing, liking, understanding.
Right.
Historically, English treats internal states as permanent binary conditions. You either understand something or you don't. You either like a song or you don't.
Oh, wow. So you don't, partially exist in a state of understanding.
Precisely. Therefore, the language forces those verbs into the simple present. I understand.
So it's treating my internal feelings as permanent architecture, even if my feelings might change tomorrow.
Exactly.
But wait, what about massive global ad campaigns, like McDonald's using "I'm loving it"? At what point does corpus linguistics admit that the rule is actually dead? Because native speakers are breaking it constantly.
Oh, corpus linguistics absolutely tracks this. It's not a mistake when marketers or native speakers intentionally break that state of verb rule.
They're doing it on purpose.
Oh, absolutely. They are exploiting the grammatical tension to create a specific psychological effect.
Wait, really? Explain that.
By forcing a permanent state, like love, into a temporary container, like am loving, it manufactures a sense of active, overwhelming urgency.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it takes a passive emotion and turns it into an active thrill ride. It sounds catchy specifically because it violates our cognitive expectations.
That makes perfect sense. They're basically hacking the grammar to make eating a burger feel like an active event rather than just a passive preference.
Exactly. It's a completely different way to look at the rules. It's not about passing a grammar test. It's about the psychological weight of the words.
That is an incredible insight. And speaking of psychological weight, before we leave the present tenses, there's a tiny mechanical detail that learners often overlook, right?
Yes, it carries immense weight in spoken fluency. The third person singular S in the simple present.
Right, like she works, not she works. He drinks, not he drink.
It seems like such an arbitrary rule to memorize, but neurologically, native speakers are conditioned to listen for that microscopic hiss of the S.
And when it's missing,
it creates a tiny cognitive speed bump in the conversation. Nailing that single consonant does more to make your English sound fluent than mastering some obscure future tense.
that is such a good tip. Do not forget the S, folks. Okay, so we've used our first two tenses to anchor ourselves in the present. We've established our default settings and our current status updates.
Right. But human beings are inherently social, storytelling creatures.
Exactly. To bond with each other, we have to share our history. We have to leave the present.
And this transition into the past relies heavily on the third of our 5 essential tenses, the simple past.
The absolute backbone of narrative.
Oh, 100%. Whether you are debriefing a board meeting or gossiping about a terrible date, you are living in the simple past.
Right. And the mechanics for regular verbs are simple enough. You just add an ed to the end, like I worked late yesterday.
And the corpus data shows clear signal words anchoring these sentences, like yesterday, last week, in 2015.
Okay, but we have to address the elephant in the room here.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The irregular verbs. Why does go become went? Why does eat become ate? If the language is optimizing for efficiency, like we talked about earlier, why does it force us to memorize hundreds of completely random past tense forms instead of just saying go ed or eated?
It looks so inefficient on the surface, I completely agree, but it's actually the result of a fascinating linguistic phenomenon called Zipf's law of abbreviation,
Zipf's law.
combined with how language evolves over centuries. Basically, the words that we use the most frequently are the ones that resist standardization the most.
Wait, unpack the mechanism there. Why would the most common words resist the rules? That seems backward.
Okay, think of language like geological layers.
Yeah.
Thousands of years ago, English had many different complex ways of forming the past tense.
Okay.
Over time, as the language modernized, a rule swept through and standardized everything by simply adding "ate." It was a huge grammatical cleanup.
Right, making it easier.
But the most common verbs to be, to go, to eat, to see were used so frequently, every single day, that they were deeply fossilized in the culture's collective memory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were immune to the cleanup. So when you memorize irregular verbs, you're actually speaking the ancient, fossilized remnants of older versions of English.
That is incredibly cool. So irregular verbs aren't just like a punishment for language learners.
Not at all.
They're grammatical fossils of the most essential human actions.
Exactly the right perspective to have.
I love that. But the simple past is only half of the historical equation, right?
Yes. The research highlights a fourth tense that works in tandem with the simple past. And it's notoriously the most difficult concept for many language learners to grasp.
Because a lot of other languages don't have a direct equivalent.
Right, we're talking about the present perfect.
I have finished. She hasn't called. So structurally, it's the verb have or has paired with the past participle.
Yep. But the struggle usually isn't the structure, it's the why.
Totally. Because if I already have the simple past to tell my stories, why did English evolve a completely separate tense to talk about the past? Like, what is the actual mechanical difference between saying, I lost my keys yesterday and I have lost my keys?
The difference lies entirely in present relevance. It's actually a brilliant cognitive tool.
Okay, walk me through it.
Let's look at I lost my keys yesterday. That's the simple past. The focus is historical. The action is locked away at a specific closed point in time.
So, is it fair to say the simple past is kind of like a printed photograph? Like, it's a snapshot of a moment that happened, it's printed, and you file it away in a photo album. It doesn't change what's happening right now.
That is a fantastic analogy.
Yeah.
Yes, the simple past is a filed away photograph. The present perfect, on the other hand, is an open browser tab.
An open browser tab. Oh, I love that. Because it's still eating up my computer's RAM right now.
Yes, exactly. When you say, I have lost my keys,
Yeah.
you are not just giving a historical account. You are bringing the consequence of that past action
Yeah.
directly into the current second.
Right.
You're saying, I lost them in the past. And the result is that I am standing outside my front door right now, unable to get inside, and I am highly stressed.
So the action is in the past, but the relevance is entirely in the present.
Precisely. It is the tense of consequence.
That distinction changes everything. You reach for the present perfect when you need the listener to care about the past right now. Like, I have finished the report means the report is sitting on your desk ready for you to read.
Exactly. And we also use this open browser tab concept to discuss broad life experiences.
Like saying, have you ever been to Japan?
Right. I'm not asking for a specific timestamp. I'm asking if the experience of visiting Japan is currently downloaded into your life's hard drive today.
The time is irrelevant. It's just the existence of the experience. Wow. Okay, so that takes us through 4 of the 5 pillars.
We're moving fast.
We've defined our current reality with the simple present and present continuous. We've shared our history using the simple past and present perfect. The final piece of the 90% puzzle is anticipating what happens next, designing the future.
The simple future, which, from a survival standpoint, human beings need. We have to predict threats, seize opportunities, coordinate plans.
And remarkably, English handles almost all of this anticipation using just 2 primary mechanisms, will and going to.
Yep, I will call you tomorrow versus I am going to call you tomorrow.
Now, earlier we talked about how native speakers break the rules with stative verbs like the McDonald's thing.
Sure.
Well, if you listen to native speakers talk about the future, we seem to use will and going to completely interchangeably. Like, I might tell a friend I'm going to grab a coffee, or I might say, I'll grab a coffee. Nobody is going to stop me and correct my grammar.
Sure.
So if the corpus data shows native speakers blurring these constantly, is there an actual functional difference that learners need to care about?
There actually is a functional difference, and it reveals a lot about the timing of human decision-making.
Oh, interesting.
The blur happens because the ultimate result, getting the coffee, is the same. But the cognitive intent behind the 2 phrases is different.
Okay, how so?
Well, think of going to as the architect. It's used for plans and intentions that were formulated before the moment of speech.
So the blueprints were already drawn up. If I say, I'm going to visit my parents this weekend, it implies I bought the train ticket yesterday.
Yes, the decision preceded the conversation. Will, however, is the spontaneous problem solver.
The spontaneous problem solver.
Right. It's deployed for split-second decisions, reactions, or promises made at the exact moment of speech.
Ah, so this is the classic restaurant scenario.
Exactly. You sit down, you look at the menu, the waiter approaches, and you make a decision right then and there. I will have the salmon.
Right. You don't say, I am going to have the salmon, because it wasn't a pre-existing plan from last week.
Exactly. Or consider a crisis. Someone drops a stack of heavy boxes. You don't say, I am going to help you. You react instantly. I'll help you. It's a spontaneous commitment.
Wow. So while native speakers might blur them in casual chatter, the underlying architecture is actually really clear. Going to communicates a pre-existing intention, and will communicates an immediate reactive decision.
Architect versus spontaneous problem solver.
That framing completely demystifies the future tense for me. And honestly, just like that, we have walked through the 5 essential tenses that govern 90% of spoken English.
It's amazing when you step back and look at the sheer utility of these 5 tools. It is incredibly empowering for anyone learning the language.
Seriously, let's just summarize the immense capability you now possess just by focusing on these 5. With the simple present, you can articulate your worldview and your daily routines.
Right. And with the present continuous, you can manage ongoing temporary situations.
Using the simple past, you can tell rich, detailed stories about your history.
Through the present perfect, you can share your life's experiences and highlight the immediate consequences of past actions.
And finally, with the simple future, you can architect your plans and react to spontaneous events.
You have effectively unlocked the entirety of human connection right there. Job interviews, romantic dates, collaborative projects at work, deep conversations with friends. They all rely almost exclusively on those 5 structural pillars.
So the remaining 7 tenses are basically just like linguistic garnishes.
Yeah, garnishes. They add highly specific nuance in rare situations, but they do not build the foundation of the house.
I love that. And, the source material leaves us with a truly brilliant challenge to kind of pressure test this idea.
Yes, the one-day challenge. This is great.
Tomorrow, try to narrate your entire day using exclusively these 5 tenses. Describe your morning routine, update your colleagues on a project, recount a funny memory from last week, mention a life experience, and make a plan for dinner.
You'll quickly discover that you don't encounter a single communicative wall. You will never find yourself stranded, wishing you knew the past perfect continuous.
It's such a liberating realization. We spend so much time in language learning treating grammar like, a math test with rigid right and wrong answers, rather than seeing it as a psychological toolkit for expressing our reality.
Exactly. It's a toolkit.
Which actually brings up a deeply fascinating thought I want to leave you with. Building on this idea of how tenses shape our reality.
Oh, this is the good stuff.
Right. We spent this entire deep dive exploring how English categorizes time into past, present, and future, but not all languages do this.
Right. We're talking about the concept of linguistic relativity.
Yes. Consider Mandarin Chinese. Mandarin is essentially a futureless language. It doesn't have a dedicated grammatical future tense like will or going to. You basically use the same present tense verb forms, whether it's happening today or next year. You just add a time marker like tomorrow.
Right, which is structurally so different from English.
Totally different. Now, a behavioral economist named Keith Chen conducted this massive study on this. He found that speakers of futureless languages where the future is grammatically identical to the present are actually significantly better at saving money for retirement.
Wait, really? Because of the grammar?
Yes. Because their language doesn't create a grammatical wall between now and later, the future feels psychologically closer to them. The cognitive distance is shorter.
That is an astonishing implication. So, if the grammar forces you to treat the future as a distant, separate reality, which English does with the simple future, it might actually make it harder to care about your future self.
Right. It raises the ultimate question. Are we simply using grammar to describe our world, or is our grammar secretly shaping how we experience it?
Wow.
If mastering these 5 English tenses changes how you communicate, how might it be subtly shifting how you perceive time itself?
That is definitely something to chew on the next time you find yourself reaching for an irregular verb.
Seriously.
Well, we want to thank you immensely for joining us on this deep dive today. If you're on the journey of learning English or any language really, just take a deep breath. Let go of those giant, intimidating textbook grids.
Yes. Focus on the tools that actually build connection. Fluency isn't about knowing every rule. It's about confidently expressing your reality.
Yeah.
Be incredibly proud of the progress you are making.
Keep talking, keep experimenting, and don't be afraid to leave a few browser tabs open. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.